Hi, I'm Holly. I'm the owner of Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting, and today I'm going to take a few minutes to walk you through the process of creating a rule in QuickBooks Online. The primary reason to use rules in QuickBooks Online is to streamline your data entry process so that your bookkeeping can be done in less time and with more consistency and efficiency. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I am here in the QuickBooks Online sample file on the Craig's Design and Landscaping Services dashboard. Now keep in mind, while the dashboard may look a little bit different than yours when you first log into your company file, all the functionality should be effectively the same. There are two different ways that we can create a rule in QuickBooks, and the first, and in my opinion easier one, is to go right here to Transactions and Bank Transactions. And then we're going to select the transaction that we want to create a rule for. Since these first two are money in transactions, I'm going to opt to go with this third transaction, which is a money out transaction. If I click on this row, the transaction expands and I get a little bit more detail about what's going on here. In order to create a rule for this transaction, I can just select this Create a Rule button right here at the bottom of the grayed out section. That will open a menu on this right-hand navigation pane where I can then go ahead and create a rule. One of the reasons that I like to do this is it puts some of the information in already for me, so I don't have to create the rule from scratch and I don't have to guess at what the details are. I'm going to go ahead and name this rule A1 Rentals. And from there, what I want to do is I want to look at the other criteria that I want this rule to analyze. So first of all, I want it to be a money out transaction because that's what we're dealing with. And I can also, from here, select whether I want it to apply only to one of my accounts or all of my accounts. If you think that in the future you might be using this vendor but paying them in a different way, this is a great way to make sure that the transaction is always captured and recorded the same way. I am actually going to go ahead and select all bank accounts for this rule. From here, I'm going to go down to the description. So I want to actually, instead of using description, I want to use bank text. That ends up being a little bit more accurate and sometimes can be a little bit more unique, and you want your rule to be unique so that it will only capture what you intend it to capture. I want the bank text to contain A1 rental. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and tell QuickBooks how I want this transaction to be classified. It's going to be an expense. It's going to be an equipment rental expense. And then I do also want to go ahead and put in a payee. So from here, I'm going to put in A1 rental. And it looks like A1 Rental is not a vendor for me currently, so I can go ahead and add them here. Now, the last thing that I personally like to do, QuickBooks will automatically check this box, which is auto add any transaction that this rule applies to. I don't like to have it do that because I like to ensure that the rule is working the way that I intend it to before I have it start automatically adding transactions from my bank feed. So I'm going to deselect auto add, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save right down here in the bottom right corner. Now that I've done that, you can see that a rule is being applied to both of these transactions. And if I click in each of these rules, we can see that we have a vendor and an expense account assigned to it. Now, every time that this bank detail comes up in the future, it is going to automatically classify those transactions to that vendor and expense account for me. And then I can just go ahead and add them like so, and confidently know that those are going to go to the correct expense account. Now, there is another way that you can create a rule, and you would navigate to it similarly. You would go Transactions and then Rules. But you can see here, I can also do that from this upper navigation pane. So I'm going to go ahead and select Rules right here. And you can see this also shows me a list of all of the rules that are available in my file. So if you ever needed to edit a rule for any reason, or you wanted to make changes to it, this is where you would do that. But you can also add a new rule on this page. Now, the primary difference with that is you can see there is no information in the description category here or in the bank text category. So you would have to know the details of the transaction that you're trying to create a rule for off the top of your head. This is a really great way to add rules if you know that something shows up the same every single time and it's something simple. But if the bank text is going to be complex, or if there's a really specific sequence of numbers or letters that occurs, you want to be sure that you're creating that rule from the Bank Transactions tab, just because it will capture that for you. All right, so as I said, if you needed to edit one for any reason, you could edit it simply by clicking here. And you could change any information that needed to be changed, and then you could save it. Thank you so much for joining me today as we walked through how to create a rule in QuickBooks. I hope that this makes your data entry process quicker, easier, more efficient, and more accurate. If you're interested in doing a deep dive into rules and how you can use them to streamline your data entry process even further by applying multiple criteria to transactions, or even having multiple transactions captured by the same rule, please go over to my website, accrualmistress.com, and register interest for my QuickBooks Online course. It is a 6-part series, and we will go through all kinds of information that will help you better navigate your company file and use QuickBooks to its fullest potential. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Holly. I'm the owner of Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting, and I hope you have a lovely day.